start. Everyone's finding a seat. People are still coming in. Okay. So I just learned a couple of minutes ago that fruit machines aren't actually fruit machines. I thought this talk is about food and beverage. No, it isn't. It's gambling machines. So maybe you have tried this before. Guess the algorithm of a machine or put a magnet somewhere. Maybe that worked 20, 30 years ago. But I'm very curious to hear what today's machines can do and what potential hackers try to do. Tony is giving us an introduction and overview about that subject. So, Tony.
All right. Wow. Okay, thanks everybody. My name's Tony. I've been working in the gambling industry for about 30 years. I don't do games, so please don't ask me any questions how you can get an extra bonus or whatever. I've always done data capture and platform systems that the games actually sit on top of or record to. I'm going to share with you some of the ways I've seen people get money from the machines when they shouldn't. So this is primarily a UK talk. It's worth knowing how much cash is in different machines. We have several categories in the UK. Category D, up to a £5 jackpot. Kids can play these, believe it or not, but that's the way it is. There's typically £40 in them. Pub machines are category C. They normally always find them in either a pub or an arcade. And again, £100 jackpot, up to £250 in the pay system. They do get attacked because it's £250 is £250. The big ones are the category BN. These are up to a £500 jackpot in cash. The stake varies depending upon the category. These are primarily in in proper adult-only arcades and casinos, that sort of thing. So they're worth breaking into. Let's see what people do. So the first thing is a physical attack. These pictures are a bit grainy because of CCTV, but the gentleman on the left there has taken a hammer to the front of this machine, and he's ripped the front of it off. Typically, the note validators on these machines are at waist level, so he's definitely going in the right direction. And they validate the notes and feed them into a stacker. Now, the stacker can contain hundreds of notes, so it's certainly worth getting into them if you can. Obviously, the minimum value of a note in the UK is £5, £10, £20. So if that's full of those notes, it's worth stealing. The guy on the right has decided to steal the actual machine. This primarily happens when the premises are unattended. The guy on the left would be doing that. But it does happen. I have seen video recently of a guy in a pub full of people ripping the front off the machine and running away with the note validator. So normally this would happen when the premises are closed. Now, how do we get away with this? It's a pretty brazen attack. It's pretty simple. It's low-tech. So there's a couple of ways. They have these barrel locks on the machines by default. These are made of brass. And one attack vector is when you'd have a machine in a busy pub. There'd be a load of people crowding around the machine, watching their friend play it. But there'd be a guy on his knees with an electric drill, drilling the barrel lock out. And then once he's inside the machine, he can take the cash box, coins in this case, but again, it can have a lot of money in them. So what do the manufacturers do? Well, they don't do anything, really. Third parties provide these additional locking braces you can see in the middle there. They are quite thick steel, about 6 millimeters. There's a much better lock on there as well. Why don't the manufacturers put better locks on them? Because it would cost them money, obviously. But the industry seems happy with that. Also, you can buy these machine safes. So in a venue that's left overnight, where a machine's left on its unattended overnight, they will actually lock them in these safes, which are bolted to the floor. And that obviously makes them a lot harder to run away with, like the guy in slide 3 did. Yeah, okay. So who owns the machine? In the UK, it's more complex than you imagine, as you can see. Manufacturer makes the machine, he makes the machine, and an operator buys the machines. The pub has nothing to do with the machines at all, other than he rents one from the operator. The operator is responsible for everything. They mend the machine, and weekly they will send a collector around who will take the cash out of the machine, count it, refill it, read the meters, and take the money to the bank, and then the operator will transfer the earnings from that machine to the pub at the end of the month or whatever. So The ladies, and they do tend to be ladies, who drive around all these pubs emptying these machines, they have a data capture device that they will plug into the fruit machine. They will extract the machine's data. They will read the hard electromechanical meters, which is called hard meters in the trade. There's a meter for cash in, a meter for cash out, a meter for refill, which we'll come on later. And then they count the cash. If the machine needs filling up, they will add money into the payout system. And then the rest of the money they will take back to the bank at the end of the day. Now, when they read all this data, the cash box, the cash that they take to the bank, the hard meters, and the data capture device should all tally. If they don't, it's always the collector who's suspicious because they've got a key, and it's basically a deterrent to prevent them from stealing. But sometimes you can get a rogue engineer. So what an engineer does is he will come along and he will disconnect the hard meters. So there's no counts there. The data capture device there's a simple protocol between the machine and the data capture device. If that's disconnected, the machine will go into an alarm state and the machines won't operate. So the rogue engineer comes along, he disconnects the meters, he disconnects the data capture device, but he replaces it with one of his own. And he does this the day after the collector has refilled the machine, so he knows it's full of cash. And that gives him a week until the next collector visit to take all the money that goes into that cash box during that period. The day before the collector is due to visit, he will go in, he will reconnect the electromechanical meters, he will swap his data capture unit out for the official one, and put the original cash box in. So when the collector comes to read all the data from the machine, the hard meters will have the right tally, the cash box will have the right amount, the electronic data will have the right counts in it as well. The take for that week will be down, but there's no money actually gone missing. Now, if they were to look at the machine meters itself, the machines have electronic meters in them that can be accessed. That would show that something had gone wrong. They tend not to do that, though, because all the machine manufacturers display their meters in different ways, and obviously it costs money to train all these collectors. They don't want to do that. So that was a bit of a problem, until the industry developed, and we came up with electronic hard meters. So these are a battery-backed LCD device with a serial protocol to talk to the machine. The electronic meters can support 16 meters internally, and the protocol just dictates which meter you want to increment. You can only increment meters, you can't reset these things. They have a unique ID, they have a serial number built into each unit, which is different, and if the machine detects that meter is different than the one it had the other day, last time it powered up, it will go into an alarm state, and you can't reset it, you've got to do a memory clear on it. And it makes a lot of noise when they go into alarm, these things. And also, because it's protocol-driven, you can actually detect when it's been disconnected. So yeah, that's how we get around rogue engineers. So how do machines actually handle coins? Wrong way, sorry. Okay, so you put coins in a machine, what happens to it after that? Well, there's a coin validator, obviously, that makes sure you are actually putting a coin through there. If the payout system needs some money in it, if it's not at we call it the float level, that's the minimum we expect to be in a machine for it to operate properly to do a jackpot payout. If there isn't enough money in the hopper, it will divert any payable coins, in this case pound coins, to the payout system. Once the pay system is full, it will start diverting coins to the cash box. So why is this relevant? Well, if pay is likely, if you listen to the machine, you can actually decide whether it's more likely to pay out or not. The machines work by calculating how much they've paid out, how much they've taken in a certain period, and directly control the jackpot payout based around how much money they've gone in and how much money's gone out. If the hopper is full, payout coins are going to get diverted to the cash box, and you can hear that there's a distinct difference in the sound that it will make because the cash boxes are right at the bottom of the machine. You can hear the coin going through the system. So a hopper full indicates whether the machine has just been collected or it's refilled or it hasn't paid out recently. And if it hasn't paid out recently, the hopper's likely to be full, and that might give you an indication if you know where the coins are going, as to whether it's likely to do one to pay out or not. What happens is the old guys sit in the pub next to the fruit machine. They're there every night, and they listen to it. They know when it's paid out. They know how much money's in it. And when nobody's won for a day or two, they'll go and empty it themselves just by winning the jackpot. So another way you can find out how much money's in the hopper is by observing the float level from the machine. You can buy these refill, they're called refill keys, and you can get these on eBay. And the reason for them is that the pub landlord doesn't have any access to the internals of the machine. If the machine fails to pay for some reason or another, he actually has to go up to the machine, put that key in it, turn it, and it enters refill mode. And that means that every coin, he's expected to put pound coins in until the hopper value is at the correct level to do the payout that's just failed. They call it a pay failed for obvious reasons. Now, all those coins are metered on a special refill meter that is used to reimburse the landlord at the end of the week. His deal is basically, I'm renting this machine off at you. I shouldn't have to be putting my money into it. That's the operator's job to make sure it's filled up all the time. But you can buy these on eBay, a few pounds. They are pretty standard, believe it or not, even across different manufacturers. It's not really illegal to put one of these in the machine and turn it and have a look. You might draw your attention to yourself, but you can get them. Normally, more modern machines, they don't actually show you the value of the hoppers, the hopper float level. They just keep the coin validator accepting coins until it's got to the right level. Then it shuts off and coins get rejected. So you don't actually, if you can't get that information, it just takes that little bit of an edge off. Electromagnetic pulses. Yeah, this is the big one. This is one you see James Bond doing and all that sort of thing. You can buy these electromagnetic pulse generators on eBay. The idea is to corrupt the machine's memory or influence the coin validator in some way or the note validator in a way that's beneficial to you. In the day, you probably end up corrupting some RAM or something. It's going to be a disaster and the machine will just crash. But you might get lucky, you might not. How the manufacturers get around this is that they have two secure memory buffers within the RAM of the machine that are battery backed. This is where critical data is held, and critical data is things like the current credit, how much the machine's been paying out, how much the machine's taken in, the electronic meters that the system has, and they have two identical buffers. When one is written to, the other one is unwritten to, and the checksums are updated. If both of them fail, the machine just goes into alarm, and it would need a manufacturer visit to sort that out. Now, these days, they also put an antenna around the outside the periphery of the PCBs, so that if they do detect any unexpected electromagnetic pulses, it just resets there and then. It just pulls a reset line down, and that's it. But it does happen, it does go wrong sometimes. There's one particular manufacturer who was susceptible to electromagnetic pulses, and it didn't add cash in the way you'd expect. What it did was it triggered the machine to think that the attendant key had been turned. Now, the attendant has the ability to credit the machine from a screen. As you can see, they have sensibly limited the attendant limit at the top there to just under €1 billion, which was a great start, really. So you could bring this screen up with your EMP, type in your new credit value, exit this screen, and then just press collect. And there you go, instant cash. It's great. This was a bit of a disaster for this particular manufacturer. They had to turn the machines off, basically. And operators do not like to turn machines off because they don't get any money from them. Interestingly, some Nokia phones that had a xenon flash on them in the day were able to do this as well. Okay. So, coin on a string. This is the oldest trick in the book. You've seen Top Cat, you might remember that in the day. People have actually tried this with sellotape as well, with plastic tape. They will simply stick a coin on the end of it and dangle it into the machine and just pull it out up and down multiple times. Most modern coin validators have got a gate on to prevent this, so it looks like a one-way gate to prevent the coin from going back out. Or they will detect internally whether the coin's going through the wrong way. They have coils and they actually give out a magnetic field, and they have another coil which detects the response from that coin, and they have signatures for each different coin type. If you ever see a machine in a string alarm or a COS alarm, coin on string, you'll know that's what's happened. Interestingly, some coin validators work by you actually take the coin that you want to accept and put it in the validator in a certain place, and it measures that as each coin goes through. It compares, as you put a coin into it, it compares that coin against the coin it's got, and if they match, it will let the coin through. Obviously, you can only take one denomination with that, but a lot of the American machines just are set up for quarters, so they do that. It's a lot easier if you want to change denomination quickly, or there's you want to update the coin type. So yeah. So hopper opto flooding. How do hoppers work? Hoppers are basically a big vat of coins with a motorized drive plate inside. It's called a singulator. And it actually does what it says on the tin. It will actually extract a single coin from this pile and pass it through the pay outlet. Now, on the payout chute of the hopper, there is an infrared opto. As the coin passes through, it breaks the beam of light. The machine sees that as a coin out, and it will decrement your credit by one coin, by £1 or whatever. So what the thieves do is they basically get themselves a battery and an infrared diode on a stick, and they stick it up the payout tube of the machine and turn it on at the start of a payout. So that floods the the photo transistor in the hopper, so it doesn't see the coins going out. It's there paying them, paying about 3 coins a second, these things. And so coins are flowing through, but it doesn't see the break in the beam because it's being flooded by this lead on a stick. You've got to turn the lead off, though. If you leave it running and the machine hasn't, say, paid a coin for, say, 10 seconds, it will go into a hand pay situation. It'll say, I can't pay out, I need help. So what they do is they have this lead on a switch, and they just periodically turn it off, turn it back on. So basically, let a coin go through properly. The machine will see that as a pay, and it will carry on the payout. If they kept the lead on all the time, it would eventually stop with a high amount of coins because it hadn't seen anything being paid out. So yeah, quite a subtle way of doing it, but there is a solution, and it's quite a bit complicated. Right, so we've got two traces here. The top one is the output from the hopper opto sensor. High is it can see infrared light, low is it can't. The bottom line is the state of the infrared lamp that's driving that's the other side of the opto. So if up is on, down is off. So what happens here is all the time the machine is, at this stage, pulsing the LED. And it always expects to see a signal when it's not in a paying state. Conversely, when it turns the LED off, it doesn't expect to see any signal. If it sees one, that's an opto flooding being done by a thief, and the machine will go into alarm. Now, when we actually start a payout, the first thing it does is a very small it actually turns the motors of the hopper on. It will turn, but it will turn the LED off and expect to see nothing there. That's just to check that everything works. When a coin is paid out, this pulse is a length that is defined by the manufacturer of the hopper. If we see a pulse that is too short or too long, we go into an alarm state. And after the pay time has elapsed, after the maximum pulse time has elapsed, we immediately turn off the infrared LED. And if we see a signal, that's an alarm state. That's somebody trying to flood it. So it looks a bit complicated. It is, but it works. The hopper flooding just isn't the thing that really happens these days. But there are other ways you can manipulate the pay system. So what the guys do is they actually get a fruit machine. They steal one, probably from the guy in slide 3 again. And they will actually research a way they can prise the door open and get a piece of bent wire, and they will manually manipulate it until they can get this wire, stiff steel wire, on one of the terminals of the hopper's payout motor. They then pull one of the button caps off the machine, get themselves a ground connection, they have a battery, and they just basically click the switch, and the hopper will start paying out. It took ages to find this one. We had a security team, and they just didn't know what was happening. All the machines, all the money was just disappearing from the machine. No reason at all. In the end, they wrapped some cling film around the hopper itself, and they saw a couple of puncture marks. A puncture mark where this wire had gone onto the contacts of the hopper motor. And that was when they realized what was happening. So the quick fix was to put a cap over the terminal so they couldn't get to it. But eventually what happened is all the manufacturers went away from using electrically driven, well, they're all electric. What I mean is a motor-driven hopper to a protocol-driven parent device. So instead of giving it 12 volts, you send it a command to start paying out. That's great. Serial protocol, what could possibly go wrong? Well, what happened was, hang on, this started spoofing the protocols. So what happened is they basically, the manufacturers went to serial protocols for everything, for coin handling, note validation, that sort of thing. There's two main protocols, CC Talk and SSP. Interestingly, both these companies operate in the town where I live, which is a bit weird, and they're world manufacturers, world leaders in this technology, but two in the same town? Anyway, so they did the same thing. Basically, the thieves get a bent wire, they prise open the door of the machine, they get a link onto one of the protocol wires. The CC Talk protocol in particular is very simple. It's just a pull-up and 5 volts serial data. That's all it is. There's nothing special. In fact, it took about 3 revisions to actually put a CRC into the code. In fact, they originally had to add a single byte checksum in a noisy environment. That's going to go right every time, isn't it? And they had to change the protocol definition just to add another byte so they get a 16-bit CRC in there. And these thieves will get a wire onto the bus. They will use a microcontroller, and they will just start sending paying commands. That's it. And the hopper will pay out. They'll say, empty or pay £1,000 or whatever. So they moved to encrypted communications. That was great, only the encryption they chose was terrible. And it was very quickly cracked by the thieves. They've moved to DES now, which seems to be working, fingers crossed. I haven't heard anybody using this attack for a while. But that's how they got around it. Now, these fruit machines are a box with stepper motors in them for the rails, and they have a background lighting panel with some artwork on it, and they have different lights to light everything up and buttons. And the problem with them is that if you want a new game, you've got to physically take the machine out and replace it with a new one. The company I worked for was actually making about 30,000 machines a year. That's quite a lot, and considering they were going for about £7,000 or £8,000 a year each as well, quite a significant business. But it's that moving the machines around that's a problem, because also once a machine leaves a pub, it sort of works its way down the chain with a second-hand value, and obviously the manufacturer isn't getting a cut from that. They're just, once they've sold the machines, they don't see any more revenue, which is a problem. So, enter multi-game systems. So, moving to multi-game was a big success for the industry. PC-based video terminals that can remain on-site. A game change is simply a software update. One manufacturer did try to keep the old machines in place by having like a rolling road panel on the front of the machine. It actually had motors, top and bottoms, and rollers, and they would rotate this artwork to make it a different game. It didn't work very well, just to say the least. It was a disaster, to be honest with you. Yeah, anyway. But the advantage of these games is, of course, you can network them. You can have many games on one machine. I think some of them have got like 300 games on them. And there's a menu selection that they can go into to pick a game that you want to play. So the game runs in its own process on this particular one we're going to be talking about. And it has to communicate with the host software. The host software is the stuff that I was working on. So this is a process that boots when the machine's image, the host software is installed. It does things like shows machine meters, lets you install games, lets you configure IP addresses and pair limits and all that sort of thing. But when a game is installed, each game just has a folder on the disk, basically. And when the player selects a game from the selection menu, the process will be started by the host software, but the game process will load a host interface library that allows it to communicate with the host software. And from that, you can obviously do things like, the machine can take a credit, it can add a credit, it can add a win, it can turn a light on, sense a button, that sort of thing. This is great. Manufacturers love this because it means that they don't have to ship machines in around anymore. They can remotely update games, and particularly it's good for revenue share because the manufacturers know which games do well. They can upload them to machines. They can find the right combination of games for a particular site, and they can directly monitor the cash take of the machine, and they take 20% of the cash box. So they're really interested in this. So they'll typically give the machine away on the arrangement that they take 20%. So it's a really good way for them to manage these and make sure that they're doing what they're supposed to do. So what happened? We had inexplicable cash loss. The machines, some of these machines are like, there's one installation in Leeds, it was taking like £12,000 a week from one location in Leeds. That's a lot of money for any machine to make. But these machines started being down by hundreds of pounds every week. The host meters, not the game, the actual platform at host, showed that all the games were massively overpaying. The cash out, the wins that they were giving out were like bonkers. They're supposed to pay out at about 98%, something like that. But these machines were paying like 400%, that sort of thing. It just wasn't right. The games meters were okay, though, which was very strange. So we started looking at CCTV footage and tried to see what the players were doing. And all we could see that they were going into a gambling feature and they seemed to be deliberately losing. So we had our QA department trying to replicate this. They were completely unable to do it. And we actually changed the software to make it so that it never had 0 credit. It always had 5p in credit no matter what, even if it's just a magic 5p on the machine all the time. That didn't work. So you could tell we were pretty desperate. So we saw CCTV footage, these guys doing this, and they were just unable to do it. They started turning machines off on site. Because this is revenue share, this is a disaster because you're just not getting any money in anymore. So, what was it? Well, eventually, nothing was found until we got our hands on an offending machine. What had happened? Well, somebody had installed a rogue service that ran as this is a Windows 7 embedded machine. And someone had managed to get a rogue service on there, and it took forever to find it because we got the machine and we attached WinDebug to the game processor and we were stepping through and it did an add win, and all of a sudden it just jumped a billion miles and the address counter just went somewhere where it shouldn't have been. It was completely out of the process space. And we discovered that this service was doing a DLL injection attack on the add win function. So the rogue service sat there. It monitored when a game was launched because it knew that they went to this RAM drive. All the games are encrypted. So we always put them to a RAM drive so you don't ever see them in their decrypted format for intellectual property reasons. And this process would do a DLL injection on the add win function. And when we saw the players trying to lose money on the gamble features, this process was monitoring if they get to 0, were they going down? And when they'd seen them lose a certain number of times, from that moment on, every time the game did an add win, it added £100 to the credit bonus, which was pretty bad. So we got hundreds of thousands of pounds being lost every week on these things. It was an absolute disaster. So our solution, in the end, once we realized what was happening, was to do a CRC check of every file on the machine. This extended the boot time by about 15 minutes. But at least we could be sure that anything that was executable on there was supposed to be there. It was a bit of a disaster initially because we realized that we had multiple versions of the operating system out there and all the files were different and it didn't go well. But eventually we got there and we got this encryption. We got this signature check of every file. Subsequent machines use BIOS-based disk encryption, So you can't even boot the thing without knowing the key. You can't install any software. We never did find out who was doing this. We suspected that it might have been somebody on the shop floor who was actually responsible for sending the machines out, because they had access to the USB ports on the machine. They could have booted it up somehow. We didn't know. We never found out. But it was a massive problem for the company. The Gambling Commission had to write the report to the Gaming Commission saying, yeah, we're really insecure, I mean, we've lost a lot of money and we're really sorry. Reputational damage, hundreds of thousands of pounds lost. It was not good at all. But this seemed to fix it, and this was the biggest machine loss that we'd ever seen until this one. So, why code reviews matter? And is anyone here from Italy? Anyone here from Italy? Okay, you guys might remember this from about 10 years ago. What happened? The Italian VLT. So, a small percentage of each stake of a game is added to this jackpot. There we go. So we've got a machine on a remote service. It goes through the World Wide Web to a jackpot API, and that then transfers it to these two primary and secondary jackpot servers. Every time you play a game, a portion of your stake is added to that jackpot, and at the end of the game, the machine asks, did I win the big jackpot? And if it did, then it does all the flashy lights and things, the jackpots are reset, and the government is, of course, taking a small percentage of this all the time. So what happened? Well, they were going to do an update on the private jackpot server. And they've got a secondary one. It's fine, isn't it? Yeah. Well, a fault occurred on the primary jackpot server. And, of course, all the machines are calling in, get jackpot value. If it's 0, they haven't won. If it isn't 0, that's how many euros they won. It was limited to about 15,000 euros jackpot, I think. I can't quite remember now, but it was a significant amount of money. So they're updating the primary server, but there's a fault with a link to the secondary server. And every machine on the estate started dishing out jackpots. Now, it was a big problem in Italy, this, because people were telling the bosses they were resigning. They were claiming money. A lot of the jackpots were over the legal limit, but it was millions, you know. But how much was paid out? Well, the system was in an error state for about 20 minutes. Okay? It's long enough. And there are about 1,500 machines on the estate. Now, they're probably not all being played at the same time, but if they're all giving out jackpots, you can imagine it was chaos. How much did we lose? Well, about 240 million euros was dispensed in this particular incident, shall we say. And it really, really was a problem. It was all over the Italian press at the time. Do you remember it? Do you guys remember this at all? Anyone remember it? No? Oh. People were going into the boss and telling them that they were resigning because they were like being given 20 million euro jackpots and this sort of thing. Now, obviously, the operator fought very hard to avoid the payments of these jackpots. Anything over the 15,000 euro limit or whatever it was rejected because that was an illegal win. But legal action was taken by hundreds of players. About 80 million euros had to be actually paid out in the end. There was insurance. I don't know the exact details of that policy, but obviously I imagine their premium has gone up a bit. But it nearly destroyed the company because they had spent millions of pounds developing this jackpot system. And basically their entire for Italy, and the entire Italian market for the company was just destroyed because they would never be trusted again. They were basically booted out of the country. It was a total loss for the state. It was bad. That side of the business was completely gone. I'd like to point out that I was in that department, but not the team that you're about to see. Just so as you know. So what went wrong? Well, if you remember, I said code reviews are important. Do we have any C or C++ people in the audience today? Okay. Brace yourselves. Okay. So this is the get jackpot function. Can you see the problem, guys? Yeah? Yeah. So it comes up with a 0 value. So it's called get jackpot value. It comes up with an unsigned integer. That's your jackpot that you've won, which is cool. And we've got this variable here, jackpot value. That's what's going to get the value of cash. So we have a try-catch thing. So this is here to detect any errors that happen. Good programming practice so far. The login's a bit weak, to be fair. So jackpot value equals get jackpot value from server. Remember, this server's offline now. So it throws an exception. So it immediately jumps out of this bit of code here and goes there and goes, oh, there's an error in the log file, and that's it, carries on. And you'll notice it returns jackpot value. Now, if you're from a Java world or anything like that, you'll know that you get a variable, an integer. It's probably going to be 0, but this is C. And what that means is that that value is now basically a random number. It's whatever's on the stack at the moment that this function was called. So that number is anything, and that's why we got all these wacky jackpot values coming out. Yeah, this would have been caught by a code review. We have tools to do it, but they weren't doing code reviews, this particular team. I'm going to show you the solution now. This would have saved 240 million euros of embarrassment. You think, oh, a few lines of code. It's not even a few lines of code. It's not even an additional line of code. All it is that. Yeah. So there we go. Code reviews are important. Make sure you do them. That's the end of my talk. Thank you, everybody.
Okay, so thank you. That was quite fascinating, I think. And we have a couple of minutes time left for a Q&A, so feel free, if you have any questions, here's a microphone, line up, and yeah.
Oh, there you go. Hi, I actually have a question about exactly this slide.
Yeah.
Because if they were to implement this fix, doesn't that mean that if the jackpot server is down, it would never pay out? And that seems like it would also violate some laws.
Well, yes, you could argue that. If it had been done this way, it would always return a jackpot value of 0, which is a legitimate value. Yeah. But it would also mean that the stakes being contributed to the system weren't being made available. It would have been illegal.
Yes.
But it would have been a much less embarrassing problem to fix.
Fair enough, thanks.
Yeah. Okay.
You mentioned in the case of the Italian job that there was an insurance policy in place.
Yeah.
Did they opt for the protected no claims bonus?
Did they protect what?
Did they have a protected no claims bonus?
I don't know. I don't know the details of that. You'd like to think they had, but I would imagine the insurers were very nervous after this escapade. Yeah. Cool.
People, can I ask you to lower your voices a bit so we can actually hear the Q&A? That would be great. Thank you.
In question about the nature of the attackers doing this sort of thing, is it like random blokes trying their chance, or is it OCGs? I mean, it seems like, given it was like attacking, injecting code, I'm guessing it's quite sophisticated people. Who is it who does this sort of thing?
We never found out. What we do know, though, is that the people develop these attacks and then they sell them to the people who actually implement them on site. So for £5,000, you can buy the knowledge to implement that attack. Obviously, it's very secretive. They don't really talk about it, but we do know that much. Yeah, because obviously, if a guy gets caught, he can say, "Well, I just gave him 500 and told me what to do." Yeah. So.
Cheers.
Yeah.
So, do we have any questions from the interwebs? No, nothing. Okay, so anyone else? I think there's a question coming up.
If there's a market for these vulnerabilities, why aren't you in it? Why don't you buy vulnerabilities?
Because I'm not a criminal.
No, I mean, so you can figure out what they're doing and shortcut the, spoil their game.
Yeah, I like to remain employed and free. Sort of
No,
thing.
I don't mean you personally. I mean your enterprise. Why aren't you
I work
fighting
in the
back in a sensible way?
Yeah, I'll be honest with you. A lot of this is quite historical. These days, I'm semi-retired now, and I work in the casino industry. But yeah, it would be a great idea, and there's plenty of stuff I could put in there as well. Do a bit of additional coding. But unfortunately, code reviews would kill that. So yeah, code reviews are important. Okay.
Okay.
All right. Thank you, everybody. Thank you very much.